FPL Wildcard active, Game Week 30 team selection all in one after the FA Cup results, after the injuries to the likes of Erling Haaland and an update on Chris Wood as well. I have activated my wildcard. In today's video, we're going to take a look at my new draft, a few bits of changes, updates to a few key players that were going to be involved, potentially in the likes of Erling Haaland and Bukayo Saka as well, and a few other things. We'll talk about what it means for my future chip strategy because, of course, I plan on playing the assistant manager next week in Game Week 31 and then free hitting Game Week 34 and bench boosting Game Week 35. We'll talk about all of that, future plans, my updated draft for Game Week 30 wildcard is active. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here. And normally, before a deadline, we have a final decisions video. But because the wildcard is active, we actually covered pretty much everything you need to know in final decisions in the complete guide yesterday. And we'll discuss all of that more on the deadline stream, which will be at least 2 hours long on Tuesday evening. But in today's video, we're looking at a wildcard draft. It'll be slightly different to those of you who maybe still have the bench boost but not assistant manager, because I'm looking to assistant manager in Game Week 31 all the way up until Game Week 33, free hit in the blank in Game Week 34, and then play the bench boost probably in Game Week 35 or 36, depending on how the fixtures fall once we get to that stage. So this is what the draft is going to look like. Again, we don't have the doubles confirmed officially at the moment, but we are expecting Crystal Palace and Arsenal to double in Game Week 33 and blank in Game Week 34. We're expecting Manchester City and Aston Villa to do the same and double in Game Week 33 and blank in Game Week 34. If you need the detail of why this is, what it looks like, again, go and check out the complete guide video from Monday morning. So diving into the draft, there is one big change and we'll get to that, and that is Phil Foden. The big thing that we've learned since that video this morning was a better update on Erling Haaland. We've heard from Manchester City releasing a sort of statement that it sounds like Haaland is going to be out for a fair few weeks. He's expected to return for the run-in. He might play some part towards the end of the season and in the Club World Cup, but he's set to miss most of the remainder of the season with an ankle injury that we saw in the FA Cup at the weekend against Bournemouth. Now, we will have a press conference from Pep Guardiola on Tuesday before the deadline just to hear him talk about it, try and understand a little bit more about the time frame, but it doesn't sound like we'll be seeing Erling Haaland back until maybe Game Week 36, 37 as a guess at sort of the earliest. Now, as a result, this boosts to the likes of Marmoush. It boosts to the likes of Phil Foden. It boosts to other wingers as well in the likes of Doku and in Savinho as well, because there's just less attackers in order for them to go and rotate around. Now, when I have a look at what it does to the draft, we've had to cut a few corners and downgrade a few players in order to free up the money. David Raya stays in goal with the double up on Gabriel. Instead of having a slightly better goalkeeper, we've gone with Areola. Now, with the bench boost plan for me in Game Week 35, he does have Tottenham at home. Now, if Spurs are still in Europe, this will be just before a semi-final of the Europa League, which would be fine for Areola if Spurs do get through, which is something that we can look out for. The issue with this draft is it leaves me exactly 0.8 million in the bank to play the assistant manager in Game Week 31. So I cannot upgrade Areola to any other goalkeeper unless I try and squeeze money from someone else, which I don't really see where I would do it at the moment. So at the moment, I've gone with Areola just because he's the only one I can afford that would allow me to do it. Gvardiol, Gabriel, Munoz remains the 3 defenders that I'm picking. They rotate really well, and you can basically play them pretty much most of the game weeks between now and the end of the season. Gvardiol and Gabriel predicted to double in 33 and Munoz in Game Week 32. O'Brien stays in my team, 4.5 million as a placeholder for the bench boost in Game Week 35, where he has Ipswich at home, and he also has Southampton at home in the potential blank in Game Week 37 as well. It is expected that Mykolenko is out injured and should be out for a few weeks. If we get a positive update on Mykolenko, I'd be probably just going Mykolenko in for O'Brien, and that would allow me a little bit of money to upgrade Areola. But at the moment, O'Brien is the sort of most nailed cheap defender at Everton. A small change we've made is we've had to go with Dan Burn. I would actually like Livramento, but again, I only have 0.8 million in the bank. And if I go to Livramento, I don't have enough money to play the assistant manager next week. Now, there are a couple of other ways that we could free it up, which we'll talk about in a moment. But if I go with the draft as it is, I would have to go with Dan Burn. The concern there is he is on 8 yellow cards. If he gets booked in the next 2 games, he would completely miss the double in game week 32, which is a massive concern. I would much rather go with Livramento, who's filling in at left back with Lewis Huel out for the remainder of the season, than go with Dan Burn. But right now, I don't see where I get the money to do it. I am completely using up every single bit of budget, and I don't expect Burn to probably get booked in the next 2 games, although it is potentially possible. Into my midfield, we've gone with Bukayo Saka. Updates on Saka from Arteta, both in the press conference and then an embargoed quote, is that he is ready to go. It sounds like he played a behind closed door friendly in the last week of the international break. He came through that okay. He's been training fine. Arteta has said, yeah, he can start. He is ready to go. So Saka has come in, and we've gone with Phil Foden. With Haaland out, Marmoush should play up front. Phil Foden will likely fill in the number 10 behind him and see quite a boost to his minutes. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that I go with Foden, and if you have low team value, just going Savinho in that spot over Foden is not a bad problem at all. I really like Savinho still, and I might end up with Savinho over Foden. But if my team value just stretches to it, that's where we've gone at the moment. Mo Salah is in, of course, home to Everton, and will have the captaincy armband for me this week, I think. And then we've gone Ismail Assar. Now, I'm talking about a few ways that I could potentially free up a bit of team value, a bit of value to upgrade Areola. And Sarr to Rodgers is potentially something that I could do. That would also free up a Crystal Palace spot that would allow me to play the assistant manager on Glasner, whereas at the moment I plan on playing on Unai Emery for Forest at home, which should be table bonus, Southampton away, and then they're double in game week 33. But I could do Sarr to Rodgers and play the assistant manager on Glasner. And then up front, on the bench, we've got Jacob Murphy. I've had to downgrade Anthony Gordon again to free up money to get Phil Foden. I do prefer Gordon if he is back available over Murphy. But Gordon, of course, is suspended for game week 30 regardless. Murphy would sit on the bench. And then we've got Isak, Marmoush, Mateta, which is kind of the forward line in pretty much every single wildcard draft. Captain on Salah, vice captain on Marmoush. I'm very happy with this draft. I think it looks really strong. If I had 0.2, 0.3 spare, Areola to a Flecken, Burn to a Livramento is something that I would absolutely like to do. I am having a look about whether this forces my team value just a little bit too far, or I could do O'Brien down to a cheaper defender, for example, and free up a little bit of money that way, given I don't need O'Brien that much. And do I want to assistant manager on Emery, or do I do Sarr to Rodgers and assistant manager on Glasner? All of these things are things I'm considering at the moment. Of course, the deadline is today. We'll have updates and press conferences from a lot of managers, which could have slight implications on all this sort of stuff. But at the moment, with exactly 0.8 million in the bank, this is how we're looking with the current wildcard draft. And then having a look at some future planning for my team and talking about the assistant manager as well. Just before we go and do that, this video is being sponsored by Huel. And I have to say, Huel has been an absolute lifesaver for me this week with all the videos and trying to build a wildcard as well. It is a meal that literally takes 30 seconds to prepare. 40 grams of protein, 26 of your essential vitamins and minerals. It's plant-based, it's gluten-free, and it's got low sugar, starting at just £1.68 a meal. But literally for me, the fact that it takes just 30 seconds to prepare has been so useful. I've actually got a flavor here that I haven't tried before, and that is cookies and cream. So literally what you do is you fill up your little bottle that you get, you add 2 scoops of the powder into it, you add the little grill that it gives, and you give it a good shake, and then it is good to go. If you want to check it out, there you can use the code HarryMarch. It will give you £10 off in the UK and 15% off if you are in the US as well. You give it a good shake. There's a link in the description as well. Taste test. Here we go. Oh, it tastes like, it does taste just like cookies and cream. It's really good. I'm trying to put my finger on exactly what it tastes like. Yeah, really good. 30 seconds to prepare. It's £1.68 per meal. Check the link in the description. Use the code HarryMarch at checkout as well. But going back to my team, just to do a little bit of future planning to show you what would this look like over the next few weeks. So going into game week 31, I would then have 2 transfers again because I didn't use both my transfers. I had 2 transfers going into game week 30. Things would look like this. The assistant manager would likely get activated on Emery. It could go on Glasner, as I spoke about in the beginning of the video. Now, At the moment, I would probably bench Ismail Assar. I'd probably play Foden and Marmoush against Man United. It would look like this. Things would be quite nice. Gvardiol versus Burn is pretty close, but Burn against Leicester is probably where I would end up. Going into game week 32, we'd have a very similar situation. We would have a slight benching decision in order to know what exactly to do on the attack. It might be Phil Foden with a single that gets benched at home to Crystal Palace, given that I have triple Crystal Palace going up against them. It also could be, though, that Bukayo Saka remains on the bench. Now, this is because that Brentford game is right in the middle of the Champions League matches against Real Madrid. So we might not be 100% certain that Saka is going to play that game. So I might just leave him on the bench and play Foden and Marmoush. Gvardiol probably on the bench. I could play him over Gabriel, but again, because I've got Triple Palace, I'd probably hedge and just go with Gvardiol on the bench and play Triple Palace. Going into game week 30, game week 33, there we go. There would be one planned transfer, which would be Alexander Isak out and Ollie Watkins in. It would leave me a little bit of money in the bank because Watkins is slightly cheaper than Isak. It would give me, with one free transfer, 10 doublers plus Mo Salah with Unai Emery as the assistant manager. Now, if I wanted to be really aggressive, I could do Murphy to someone like a Rodgers and bench Mo Salah, but I don't think that's worthwhile. I'll probably just keep the rest of my transfers. Captaincy that week will probably be on Bukayo Saka, but if Marmoush is looking really good, he could get it and he's likely to get the vice captain as well. Then going into game week 34, I would play the free hit chip. And in game week 35 would be when I plan on playing the assistant manager. That is when O'Brien is useful. He has Ipswich at home. Areola has Spurs at home, which is okay. I would have 4 free transfers in which I could potentially sell and upgrade Murphy. I could potentially sell and upgrade Dan Burn because, of course, I would get the money back for the assistant manager as well. The starting 11 looks absolutely fine to sort of bench boost with the rest of them on the bench. O'Brien, in theory, could start, but I wouldn't be benching any of my defenders. And I would hopefully get to this point with 4 free transfers. The real aim on Wildcard this week is to not have to force transfers if I don't have to until game week 35. In game week 35, we should know if there are more doubles in 35, 36, and if 37 is a blank or not. So taking as many transfers as I can all the way up until game week 35 is a benefit. And I think this wildcard really allows me to do that. So just going back, it looks like this. It leaves me exactly 0.8 million in the bank. Slight debate on whether I do Sarr to Rodgers, and then it allows me to play the assistant manager on Glasner, or I go with Sarr and play the assistant manager on Unai Emery instead. All of this is up for debate in my mind. Of course, there'll be updates, there'll be press conferences, everything on Tuesday as we go into the deadline stream on Tuesday evening. There will be a 2-hour deadline stream, if not longer, because I'm on Wildcard. I'll be tinkering and I know there'll be loads of questions. Drop any questions you have about the Wildcard, about the chip strategy in the comment section down below. If not, bring them to the deadline stream. We'll answer as many of them as we can there as well. Thank you all for watching. Again, if you're interested in Huel and you want to check it out, there is a link in the description, and use the code HarryMarch at checkout as well. Drop any questions you have. I'll do my best to answer as many as I can. If not on the stream, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll be back again very soon.